Hello YouTube, Matt here from the Bluebell Model Railway channel. Here for the first time in a little while, a new model review. This has just arrived from the postman, and this is an exclusive model to the Isle of Wight Steam Railway, and it is of course the London, Brighton and South Coast Railways E1 060T. This one is depicted in the 1930s southern olive green livery, and of course being an Isle of Wight locomotive and exclusive for the railway, it depicts their own locomotive which is currently under overhaul, which is W2 Yarmouth. So this model has been a little while in the making, as to speak, or so to speak. This was originally announced as a commission by Model Rail magazine, that is. I think it was way back in 2018. The project never really got off the ground and didn't gather enough interest, and I think late in sort of the 2020s, 2021, Rapido Trains UK decided to give it another go, and they seem to have got enough interest with enough livery variations and a few special commissions as well to have another go at it, and this time it did go ahead. So since this one got announced, this particular model was somewhere announced in 2022, I think it was about August, and the ordering system sort of went line late August, early September, and it has now arrived today. I think it's the 5th of July, so it's taken about 3 years, which with COVID and everything and factories getting back on their feet, it's not surprising. So let's take a closer look at its model, and we'll talk you through, or I'll talk you through and round the model, showing you maybe the different features and some of the nice areas that I think Rapido has excelled at and maybe not so well. We'll have a look. So let's have a very quick look at the packaging, not doing any unboxes here. The packaging itself is the general Rapido Trains box, nice and sturdy, with a foam insert with a small cutout for the detailing pack. You also get your nice manual, which you can have a quick look at before running your model. And here is the detailing pack itself with various pipes, coupling hooks, but unfortunately no etch plates for the tanks. The model itself comes in a nice ice cube packaging with some high density foam around it as well, which really is, as you would expect, the standard for today's models. And so onto the model then. As you expect, or would expect, the model itself is bristling with fine detail. However, mine was missing a little bit, which was stuck in the packaging, which was the smoke box door dart. Luckily it hadn't broken off, and it just looked like it had come loose while in transit, and luckily I could add this back with a very small amount of varnish to stick it back into place. So mine might be in a slightly different position to yours, but that's why. The model itself on the front is nicely decorated, and the livery is, as you would expect, crisply applied and lettering perfect, as is the nameplate with some nice lining around the outside. So taking a look at the front end of this locomotive and a closer look in general. So on the front here we have a nicely painted buffer beam in the warning red. We have your standard tension lock coupling with NEM pockets. We have sprung buffers for those who get excited about them, and some nice printing of the number and insignia on the front. A small hole opening here for your choice of coupling hook, and also a nice air pipe for the braking system. This, of course, being London, Brighton, South Coast, this model did have a Westinghouse pump on, and this locomotive did have one on the right hand side of the cab. Along the top of the running plate here we have the lamp brackets or irons, and we also have the sand pots at the back here and also on the other side. We also have separately fitted smoke box door darts, which as stated came off in the packaging, and another one at the top here as well. We also have some nice handrails are on the top here, and the smoke box door doesn't open. Taking a look at the side and top of the locomotive, we can see a nicely separately fitted chimney. Obviously there are variations on the chimney design, from copper top to just a general shape. We have some nicely applied handrails down the side of the boiler, nicely painted pipes and clack valves here. These do seem to be a step up from previous finishes on other models. They do look a little bit more shiny and a little bit more more appropriate, shall we say, rather than the metallic finish that doesn't look too good on camera or to the eye. The dome itself looks separately fitted. We've got nice decoration down the side, from the nameplate to the southern lettering, from the white and the black and the olive green on the tank side. Got some nice rods and levers going back to the cab as appropriate, nice safety valve, and also we have some nice decoration around the cab windows and a small whistle on the top of the cab roof. Nice rivet detailing along the top ribs as well, and just generally the finish is exemplary as you would expect. So let's take a look below the running plate now, and we can see the running plate again is nicely lined out, and with the olive green, the white lining as well as the black edging. We can see some separately fitted steps as well, one just in front of the tank and one for the cab. The wheels themselves appear to be die cast with a 3mm axle. Also, I believe these wheel sets are split axle design, which I'll just double check on that, but again they are nicely painted and finished with some nice lining around the outside and also the inside of the axle. The coupling rod, again a slightly different finish to other manufacturers, but some have tried it in the past. This has a nice sort of an oily silver finish to it, which to be fair I prefer. I don't like the over shiny nickel plated coupling rods on locomotives. I think this finish does look a little bit better. We also have some nice brake rigging along the bottom there, connecting all the brake rigging and brake hangers and brake blocks. And we also have the guard irons front and rear, the front just being out of shot. The wheel sets are driven by the middle axle on this locomotive, and while we're speaking about them being driven, this has a Next 18 decoder socket in the right hand side of the locomotive tank. So taking a peek through the cab door, we can see an absolutely exquisitely detailed boiler backhead with various pipe work, brass work, and also the water gauges on the back of the boiler, as well as some various handles and dials, etc. We have the locomotive's reverser closest to the door, but we can also see just in the middle of the doorway there is a nice opening for the firebox flicker, so you can see that nice and brightly. I just hope it's slightly better than the one that was on the E1, which was just a solid red light. On the outside we can see some nice lining and various pipe work and handrails just in front of the cab door. We can see also a nicely printed number 2 on the coal bunker, and the coal rails around the top of the bunker as well, and also some nice protection for the back windows here as well. Looking in the opposite side of the cab, we can see the back of the cab is painted in a nice ochre colour. Just a shame I think the rest of it isn't, but never mind. And The bottom has always been black because of the coal space opening, and you've got a nice separately fitted handbrake at the rear. Spinning the model around, we can see a standard fare on the back buffer beam with an opening for your coupling hook of choice, as well as an air brake pipe as well, and the sprung buffers. We can also see a plate which is also nicely printed on the rear of the bunker with its locomotive number, as well as the railway company itself. On this side of the cab we can see that Westinghouse pump just here, which is cab mounted with some nice pipe work on the left and the right running up to the boiler. You can see just under the boiler here we have some nice highlighted reversing gear, as well as a separately fitted handle on the front of the tank, and also I think a lubricator pot just on the side of the tank here. So just looking at around the boiler barrel area of this model, something that was brought up on a few videos I've heard and also a friend of mine has seen as well. So the construction of this model, to give it a little bit more additional weight, follows a similar principle that say the Hornby H Class uses, and also the S15 and the J15 as well, I think off the top of my head. So the bottom of the boiler barrel is part of the chassis block, and this carries the motor itself on top, which then goes out to a drive shaft and a gearbox towards the cab in this case, which also frees up a bit of room for chips and speakers, which this model does take, an X18 decoder, and also I believe has a pre-fitted speaker on board as well. But you can certainly see on this model in particular, you can see the line which goes across just here, but you can also see quite a lot of overhang from the top, and the lining doesn't really line up that well on that side, so it's a little bit disappointing. Maybe a little bit more tidying up, but with a complex livery it is very difficult to line things up sometimes, but it's certainly been noted. I know a few people have mentioned it on other videos, but this is just the way the model is constructed, and unfortunately can't really be changed. I'm sure we'll probably see some more of it going on in some other models coming out in the not too distant future. But of course this model needs it because of the weight. I know it is considerably bigger than the Terrier, but it certainly does help with the weight, and it's not a bad weight for this model, so a little bit of compromise, but it's not too bad, as the actual lining is hidden by a plastic pipe that comes down from the top of the locomotive. So you have seen the good, the bad and the ugly. So what we're going to do now is we're going to shift over to the rolling road, and as I've stated so many times, unfortunately I don't have space for a layout, and unfortunately I don't have one or know of anyone that does have one. What life I lead. Anyway, we're going to have a look at that on the rolling road, see how it runs, and see how that firebox flicker is this time around. So here we are on the rolling road by Hornby, and this is linked up to a standard Gagemaster controller. So let's have a look at how it runs on this rolling road. Unfortunately, as you know, story by now, there is no layout here. Unfortunately, I don't have room for one, unfortunately. So let's have a quick look at how it gets on. So this is just running around about 35 on the controller, and I'm just going to leave it doing this for a little bit whilst I'll film some other pickup shots. On this angle of the running in, we can just about see through the cab door. We can see the firebox flicker, or so it's called. Unfortunately on this model it is exactly the same as the E1, and it's just a static red light, so it's quite disappointing that there isn't any real inclusivity for DC users. So to round up and summarise this new model, this model is W2 Yarmouth. It is an exclusive model only available from the Isle of Wight Steam Railway shop at Haven Street. It's limited to a number of 500. Model livery represents the 1930s period and also to what it's being restored into. The model is die-cast, nicely detailed with many separately fitted parts. Correct marsh boiler and drum and chimney. The motor is a coreless with double flywheel with a drive shaft that leads to the gearbox. The model is equipped with a Nex 18 decoder socket and is also fitted with a speaker, whether you like it or not. There is a firebox glow, but unfortunately that is only controllable and available really in terms of lighting to DCC users. The model does run well, smooth and quiet. It is a good weight at 175 grams for quite a small tank engine, but there are a few small little niggles. There's no additional etch plates for the side of this model, unfortunately they're not included, but you can purchase them elsewhere for a small fee. As I mentioned, the firebox glow unfortunately isn't really available to DC users and it's just a solid red light, whereas other manufacturers do allow this to flicker, which is a bit of a shame, and for the price point I certainly would like a little bit more for my money in that side of things. On reviewing some of the footage I've taken of this model, it's also come to my attention that the back of the running plate and also forward of the running plate is either slightly bowed downwards. There is some light underneath the body shell which goes on top of the running plate. The left splasher as you're looking at it now, and also the corner of the bunker on the left hand side. That's a little bit disappointing. But I'll have to have a look at seeing if I can just jig that about a bit to try and get it back to where it needs to be. The other part that's a little bit disappointing is the way that the sort of motor holder, which is also metal and is an additional piece on top of the running plate, that doesn't really match up too well to the top part, and you can sort of see the line along from the tank to the smoke box. But other manufacturers have maybe done this slightly more successfully in terms of the lining up and also the livery application to line the lines up and all that kind of thing, and make it not so much stand out, shall we say. I have some concerns also with one manufacturer which is producing the T3. There's quite a lot of join lines along the splashers where one bit meets the other, but we'll see how it comes out, and apparently it's already under review. So overall I paid £169.95 from the shop, which I suppose in this day it's not too bad. Of course there are probably some slightly lower prices around for the other variants, of which I believe there are maybe 15 other variants, from the improved engine green, the Billington green, and also some other variations from Southern Black, British Railways lining, and also some other Isle of Wight variants, as well as some private collieries. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this review. I know it's a little bit longer than normal, but I hope it helps you decide whether to buy one of these or not. It certainly is an impressive model with plenty of detail, nice livery application, but there's a few small niggles as I'm a DC user. Hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you again on the next review.